Hello, everybody. If you can hear my voice, type in yes or Y. All right. Excellent. Glad you all could make it. Um, Tonight, I don't have anything on the agenda. If anybody wants me to analyze a deal, send me something over. Anybody working on anything they want me to review with the group? Otherwise, I was going to go through, talk a little bit about cap rate and just go over that again and answer any questions about financing. But if there's something you wanted to talk about tonight, let me know. Anybody? Have you got anything they wanted to talk about? Something maybe that's creating a barrier for you, something you're challenged with, or something you're having a challenge understanding. Everybody's good. Ideas for deals. It will take me a few minutes to type out details. Okay, no worries. No worries. Okay. Give you a minute. Is there an area you guys want to talk about? Anything you want to talk about? We're wide open. Move ahead on cap rate and I'll put it in. Okay, well, okay. So cap rate, the reason I think cap rate's so important is we're using that in GRM. GRM is good. GRM is, everybody remember what GRM is? Actually, let's do that first, just real quick. And the reason that GRM is important to us. So GRM is gross rent multiplier. And the reason it's important to us is it gives us a quick evaluation of a property just based on gross income and purchase price. And even though we don't know the actual expenses of the property, we can still quickly evaluate to see if there's an opportunity. So the GRM we're looking for, we'd like to see is a 6, but we can work all the way, even to a 12. 12 is like on the cusp. When you get a GRM of 12, just because it becomes more difficult to make the property work when you start putting in expenses. So as an example, if we have a 100K property and the gross income of that property is 10K per year, if we divide 100K by 10K, we get 10. Everybody see that? So the GRM is 10. Okay, the gross rent multiplier. Okay, so 10 is on the high side. We'd like to see it higher. The reason is if we look at 10 as the GRM, that gross rent is probably going to lose, we're going to lose half of that to expenses. So if we go 10K, fix that. So we have 10K, and if we have, I'm just going to move to another screen. If we have 10K for gross rent, it's our gross rent, and we lose half of that to expenses, we're going to be left with 5K. Okay? So why is that important to know and understand? Well, if we're left with a net operating income, so this is the net operating income, okay, of 5K, why would that be a challenge? Can anybody tell me? Why would that be a challenge? So we started with a GRM of 10. We had gross rent of 10K. We're going to lose about half of that to expenses for, management and vacancy, property management, taxes, insurance, all those things, maintenance. So we lose half of it, which is not crazy to lose half the money from the gross rent to maintain the property, because there's a price to ownership, and we recognize that. So who can tell me why that's a challenge when we have that property? It's 100K, 10K was a gross rent. When we put those expenses in, We assume we're going to get about 5K. What's the challenge with this property if the purchase price is 100 grand? What's the next thing we have to look at? What's the next thing that's going to take, some of that 5K away? Anybody? Taxes already taken out. So we took out taxes. So we're saying that all the expenses are gone. So we've taken care of expenses now associated with property management, vacancy maintenance, taxes, insurance, things like that. Now you're left with 5K. There it is, the mortgage. Yep, the mortgage. So when we look at the mortgage, so if we have 100K we started with, and let's just say we did the 20% down, just as an example. That means I would be mortgaging 80K. Now, if I mortgage 80K, I'll just do the quick calculation here. Okay, give me a second. So if I do a mortgage for, what mortgage do you want to use? So we're just talking about GRM and how GRM can help us quickly evaluate a property. And as a goal, evaluating 5 properties to 10 properties a week. GRM, yep, gross rent multiplier. So let me see. So GRM is gross rent multiplier. This is just knowing, we're just understanding. So we've just received, okay, the gross rent multiplier. That's right. So let me back up. Okay, so here we go. Let's start again, just for everybody's. We have 100K. Let me do this way. So purchase price equals 100K. Okay, gross income equals 10K. That's for the year. Okay, for the year. So this is going to tell us, this is going to give us the gross rent multiplier. Okay, for the year. Okay, so this gives us GRM of 10. Okay, so gross rent multiplier just means 10K. So we have the 10K for the gross rent, and the purchase price is 100. So if I divide 100 by 10, that'll give me 10K. 100 by 10K, that'll give me a GRM of 10. Okay, gross rent multiplier. So what does that mean? Well, what we're trying to calculate is based on the gross rent, how many years would it take me to recover my investment just on the gross rent? So how many years would it be? Who can tell me how many years? 10 years, that's right. So the gross rent, yeah, that's right. So the gross rent multiplier tells you it'll take you 10 years. If you just took the gross rent with no expenses, it would take you 10 years. That's what you're starting with, right? Because the income is the income, right? The income is the income. That's what you have to work with. Now, obviously, we can work on things like, if we can increase the rent, we're going to do that if the market will take it. We can reduce the purchase price. That'll help our GRM because we'll start with a lower purchase price. That'll increase the GRM, lower the GRM for less years to recover. But ultimately, you're dealing with income, and really income determines value when it comes to investing in real estate. So when we look at that, why is the GRM so effective, even though it's just the base information, purchase price and gross rent purchase price and gross income from the rents? Why does it tell us so much? Why does it help us in evaluating a property quickly? Because all really you're looking for is what's your purchase price, what's your rents, how much are we bringing in, what's your total income? And obviously we could increase the income, like we said, by increasing the rents. You could also do, charge for parking. You could add washing machines and drying machines, any vending machines, anything to get that income up. So to get the investment back, based on just gross rent. It's telling us that it'll take 10 years. Now, is 10 a good number? Well, I'd like to show you why. You tell me, is 10 a good number, right? And why are we looking? Yeah, it's not a good number, and we want to see a number closer to 6. It doesn't mean you can't work with a GRM of 10. It just, you're starting in a position where, how much does it cost me to make money? Because this is really what it's all about. Is what we're trying to do is produce income, and we're asking ourselves, in reference to real estate, how much am I working with, and how much do I have to put up to produce income, cash flow? What's my return and what's my cash flow? GRM, again, is a really easy way to quickly evaluate a property. And why is that important to us? We want to learn how to evaluate property quickly because we don't really want to waste time on properties that are not going to give us any yield, any potential, right? We don't want to spend time looking at the property, getting even additional numbers when the GRM is too high, okay? So let's pretend, the purchase price, again, equals 100K, and the gross income is 5K. So what is your gross rent multiplier? What's the gross rent multiplier? Yeah, it's 20, right? I divided this by this. So it's telling me it's going to take me 20 years. 20 years, okay? Now, with a gross rent multiplier of 20, there's pretty much, we can't do anything with that. In fact, when we look at a gross rent multiplier of 20, you're going to run negative cash flow, guaranteed. And if you don't run negative cash flow, you're going to run extremely low in the way of return, because the only way you can make a cash flow is to put up all the money. If I had this info on the sheet, it says the GRM is 1.6. The GRM is 1.6, it's telling you? Which sheet do you got? Hold on one sec. Hold on one sec. Okay, let me just give me 1 sec. Let me fix that and see what's going on there. Let's see. Let's go 5K. Give me 1 second, okay? Equals 5 divided by 12. 1,000 divided by 12 equals. The cap rate is 36%. Hold on 1 sec. 416, 67. Give me 1 second. No, the GRM is 20 on the sheet. I was trying to understand the sheet better, so I was following along. So everybody got GRM at 20, right? With that? Okay, let's do this. Let's do this. It's okay. It's okay. No problem. I'm going to share my screen, okay? And we'll do it together, okay? Okay. So if I take, just so you see, okay? So let's do this. If I took $5,000, because that's the gross rent that they gave me, right? And I divide it by 12 months, okay? What's that give me? That gives me, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way, okay? So everybody can see. So this is the gross rent per year, $5,000, okay? This is the months, and this is the result, okay? So if I go this divided by this, that's going to give me the monthly rent. If I put basically $417 there, that's going to give me a GRM of 20, okay? So if I change this to 10,000, which was the original one, I go 834 rent per month, right? That's going to give me a gross rent multiplier of basically 10. Maybe I need to use a different copy. My sheet might be screwed up somehow. No worries. I'll give you the sheet. It's okay. So is everybody with me so far? Does anybody have any questions about what we're doing here, the gross rent multiplier? No worries, my pleasure. No, I want you to understand this. One sec here. I might have a student. I don't think. Okay, so so what we're trying to understand is why the cap rate can tell us, a great deal with very limited information. Because all we've really got is the gross rent multiplier. We have the number of days, number of months. That's the gross rent, and all we have is that purchase price. Okay, so let's say this is 100K. Okay, yeah. Okay, so and let's no ARV, just no repairs. Okay, so it's 100K, 100K. Um, the gross the gross income is $10,000. The number of months is 12. 833 is the rent, and I have 1 unit. Okay, so if I do that, I'm going to get gross rent multiplier of 10. Why is that a big deal? Why is that a big number? Okay, why is that a big number? Aren't you asking, or is the asking price and ARV low? What do you mean? So all we're doing is as though there's no repairs, just asking price of 100,000. We haven't changed anything. Remember, somebody just gave you a listed property. The property was listed for 100. The gross rent was 5,000. You updated them. You mean the sheet? Is that what you mean? The sheet, Charles? Yeah, no worries. I'll let everybody have that. Okay, so when we look at $100,000 purchase price, and someone tells us that the gross rent is $1,000, 10,000, or they just tell us that the rent's $834 a month. It's $834 a month. That's going to tell us that the gross revenue is $10,000, right? Gross revenue from the rent for a year. That's what that is right there. So that's going to give us a GRM of just a smidgen under 10. Basically 10 GRM. Okay, so when we look at that, we look at, say, the expenses, right? So here we have 5% maintenance, vacancy, property management. That's going to give us 10. And the expenses over here, which are old expenses, we just put them in. So we can, let me see what that is, about 20, 30%. It would typically be, we're going to use half. So let's do this. I'm going to take these out. And we're going to go other here. I'm going to go 5,000. And I'm going to go here 10% for management. If I go over here, we see the cap rate is 3. Okay? And the reason the cap rate is 3, why is the cap rate so low? Oh, wait. Give me a second. My apologies. Let me see. Nope. I don't want that. I want 3,000. 3,000 is the total expenses of other things that we don't know yet. But the point I'm making is that the expenses are going to take about 50% of our money away. Okay, that's $5,000. That's going to leave us a GRM, gross rent multiplier of 10, and a cap rate of 5. Okay, now why is this a problem? Right, and you got to imagine we only know at this point asking price and gross rent. They're telling us the asking price is 100 and the rent per month is 834. Say 834. Let's go 835. Let's make it simple. Okay, so 835 is what they're charging. Okay, so 835 per month is what they're charging. Okay, so over 12 months, that's going to give us $10,020. The vacancy maintenance, property management, 10%, and other expenses are 30%. Say close to 30%. So 516 is what it's going to cost us. And when we get those expenses, we see a cap rate of 5 and a gross rent multiplier of 9.98, which is like a 10 cap rate. So when we take these numbers in and we start with these numbers, the problem becomes financing. So if we did 80-20, just the standard financing, and we said the financing is going to be 30 years and it's going to be 3. Okay, so pretty good for you know, the mortgage and the amortization of 30. We got a 3% rate, which is pretty good. We come down here and we see, well, wait a minute, we have cash flow of $81, but that's a problem. Why? The cash flow is not a problem. What's the problem? It's the cash on cash return is 4.9%. It's 5%. Okay, it's 4.9%. Now that's a problem for us. Okay, because the return for the risk that we're taking is too low. And we'd like to see this double digits. Obviously, we'd like to see it at 10. Yeah, 10 or higher, double digits. So then we look at options of, you know, maybe 10 to 10. But what am I going to pay them? Well, let me give them 10%. As soon as you do that, you don't have enough money to work with. You don't have enough cash flow, you know, after you throw in the expenses to carry this property. So this all starts with because when we look at just the standard, even, right? Just the standard, we see that even though we have the cash flow, we don't have the return. This all started with the GRM being 10. So when the GRM is 10, it becomes challenging to make the numbers work because it's so far away from the 6 cap rate we'd like to see. So even though we just have asking price and we just have purchase price, purchase price and the gross rent, the rent, we can quickly evaluate whether we want to spend any time on this property. Now let's imagine that it was $15,000, right, per year. Say that they were renting it out for $12.50, right? Now we see that the cap rate, the GRM is 6.7. We have cap rate of 9. We start doing the financing. We come down and we see, well, cash flow per unit, 413. Cash on cash return is 2.4. Sorry, 24.8. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to up it. We go, let's go back here and go 10 and 10. Creative financing. Come down here and we see we've met our requirements still. We're still fine because we're paying a 30-year mortgage for 10 years. We're putting in 10,000. Look at this. Monthly cash flow 327, and the cash on cash return is 40. So because we started with a good GRM. So what's the lesson here? The lesson is as you're evaluating properties, you don't need a ton of information to know quickly if a property is going to have any potential, right? When your GRM is double digits and higher, it's going to be difficult to make the property profit. It's going to be tough to make the property profit. Excuse me, because after we take in income and expenses, actually this would be a little bit less because it's 10% now. So I make this, that would be 6. That would be, I think, 4,000. Look at this there. Is that right? Let me see. It's 15, so 7.5. I need 4,500. So what I'm doing here is I'm just making the expenses 50%. I'm making the expenses 50%. Oops, what did I do? 4,500. Okay. What am I doing here? I still went 45,000. There we go. There we go. That's more realistic. 202 and 24 with the creative financing. Okay. So does everybody understand what I'm doing over here? All I'm doing is other expenses. So there's obviously going to be taxes. There's also, there's obviously going to be expenses that are associated with this property, right? So we don't have them right now. I'm just making up a number. But the quick assumption would be that the property is going to have expenses with when we add in vacancy maintenance, property management, they're going to be around 50%. So that's going to be 7,500 of the gross rent. The gross rent is $1,250 a month, 15,000 per year. I'm going to lose half of that to expenses. When I lose half of that to expenses, GRM 6.67, the cap rate is 7.5. I can still make this work if I can get the proper financing together. I can still make it work. Whereas if I was only bringing in, what do we have, 835 for rent, it makes it extremely difficult to profit because with a decent return, because the GRM is so high. Is everybody with me? So the GRM is going to tell you very quickly if a property is worth looking at. So when you start getting into those higher GRMs, you don't need to waste your time. Because if the only option, if someone's listing this for 100 grand, let's go back to standard stuff. All right, 20. And let me go over here to expenses, and let's make that, I think 3,000 was the, yep, 3,000. So let's say 835 is what they tell you is going to come in. Asking price is 100,000. The GRM is going to be, gross rent is going to be 10 grand. We're going to assume 50% is going to go to expenses. That's 5,000. Cap rate's 5. Gross rent multiplier is 9.98. Really, at this point, all we know is the GRM. But we can make a quick calculation, and we can see that it's not going to allow us to actually profit with a good return. The return's not going to be there. Sorry, got kicked. Owner has no mortgage. Okay, this is a deal. Okay, let's do that. I'll come back to the gross rent multiplier. Let's look at this deal. Okay, sorry, got kicked. Okay, owner has no mortgage. No mortgage. Flood damage. Cost to rehab 50K. Value after about 160 to 180. The owner wants to fund rehab, then take 5% of the sale price. Should note, this is my business partner's boss. We would be doing all facilitation of work. He doesn't seem to like a good deal or worthwhile to me. It doesn't seem like, okay, how could we better structure it to make both sides happy? I do not believe he has funds to repair. Sorry if I lose you as I am at work. Oh, no worries. Okay, let's look at that. Okay, so the asking price, what's the asking price, Jen? What's the asking price? So what price are we starting with? Because if he's going to take a percentage of it, he owns it, right? I know, but Jennifer, the value of the property, if he's saying the owner wants us to fund the rehab and then take 5% of the sale price, what is that against? 5% of what? He wants 5% of 180,000. If you sell it for 180,000, is that what you mean? He will sell when it's complete. Okay, I understand that, but we can't figure out the profit unless we have a value to start with. You see what I'm saying? Does that make sense, Jen? I understand that the property is going to be, what's the property worth right now? What would you estimate the property's worth right now? Does he believe it's worth 130? Is that what he's saying? Right now, it's maybe worth 80K as destroyed inside. Okay, so let's asking price is 80K. Let's say repairs are 50K. Okay, the purchase price is going to still be the 80K. We're going to use that. After repairs and everything is 130, which makes the ARV 130. Okay, agree with me? Does that make sense, Jen? Am I doing this right, Jen? No? Oh, after repair, my apologies, is 180. Okay, 180,000. Okay, gotcha. Okay, so this is not a rental, right? This is just a rehab. So I can still use these numbers, okay? These numbers here. Hold on. Give me 1 second. We just stay with this sheet. Okay, so give me 1 second. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with, yes? Okay, so if he agrees that the actual value is 80, the repairs are 50, and he wants you to cover the 50, right? Correct? So we would go, let's say owner, what's he gonna make? Well, the owner wants 5% of the sale price, right? 5% of sale. So if we look at that, right? His money that he would make would be, let's say we get the 180, right? Equals this times this, 5%. So he wants $9,000. Is that right? Am I doing this right, Jen? Is that what you mean? He wants to give us 5%. He wants you to make $9,000 after you do the repair. Is that right? Is that your money, the 9,000, or his money? No, we put in 50,000 and then they pay us back plus 5%. Okay, so equals 50K times 5%. Is that right? That's what he wants to give you, $2,500? You, the investor. Is that right, Jen? Am I reading that right? Or you mean 9K plus 50K? That's what you mean, don't you? He seems like he would pay us back out of sale. Okay, so then it would be equals this times this. Sorry, the 180. Okay, so he wants to give you $99,000 plus your 50,000 back, correct? Is that right? So your investment was 50,000. Okay. Okay, give me 1 second. So this is 50,000. These are repairs. Okay. This is return, or actual money. After repair. Let's see, after sale. Right, let's do that, after sale. Okay, so you're going to receive, basically, this plus this, 9,000. So there's your money. Okay, that's, what is that, 20? Hold on a sec. Okay. Okay, so that's total. That's how much you get back, 59. This is your return, equals this divided by this, okay? Which is 18%. Now, what do you folks think about that? That's the ROI. Anybody have any comments about this? Great ROI, okay. 18% ROI doesn't seem great. Looks better than I thought. Seems low for 2 months' work. So Jen, let me ask you something. How much are you making from the rehab? So the rehab is 50K, but how much are you getting paid in profit over that 50K? I'm just curious. Nothing? That 50K is real money? Like there's no profit in that 50K? Is that right, Jen? So the charge of 50K, Jen, is the actual cost. There's no profit in there for you in the 50K. It's not been marked up. Just 5% of what it sells for, no profit in 50K. So let me tell you then what I think should happen. I think after the sale, you need to make $25,000 because that's what we make on rehabs. Okay? And on rehabs, remember something on rehabs. The ROI is much higher on rehabs. This is not a cash flowing property. So 25,000 is what we want on this rehab. If we put up 50,000, okay, that, then I'm going to get this and equals this divided by this. Okay, that's what it should be. Okay, that's what it should be. So, and let me explain something here. Okay, does that seem a lot to you folks? That we're gonna make 25 on this deal, put up 50 for the rehab, make 25, 75,000, 56. Does it sound high? Okay, let me show you something. Okay, just let's do something together. The property value, okay? The property, okay, value. Let's do this down here. The property value is the 180, okay? After repair value, ARV, okay? ARV, okay? The property, what we had to do, repairs plus purchase, so this plus this is 130, okay? So equals this minus this is the profit. Everybody with me? Okay, so we have ARV 180, we have cost, purchase price plus repair, and then this is what profit is left at the end of the deal. Everybody with me? So all we're actually asking for is half. That's all we're saying. You have the property, we have the, we're going to do the rehab. Let's do the property, repair it, and let's split the profit. And guess what will happen? Jen, you'll make $25,000. He'll make $25,000. So equals this divided by 2. Okay? That's what investor gets. And that's what owner gets. Okay? He gets half, we get half. That sounds fair to me. So that's how I would explain it to him. It's exactly how I explain it to him. Look, we're putting up the rehab. We're going to do the rehab. We're going to do the work. Let's split it. That makes sense to me. What do you folks think about that? That sounds fair to me. You know? So it's not like you're asking for a ton, Jen. You know, if you're putting up the money for the rehab, you know, then he's putting up the house, you're putting up the money, let's split it. Let's split it. You know, if we really think we're going to get that money, maybe I will present it in that way and he can negotiate. It will still be better off than the 9K we could save. Keep the relationship. Say again. I will present it that way and he can negotiate. It's will still be better off than 9K and we save. Keep the relationship. Well, I mean, he can, you know, there's other things he could do, you know, at the end of the day. But if you're not making, you know, the money, I mean, it's important to partner to have a good relationship with boss. No, that's fair. I mean, I totally understand. I think though, at the end of the day, Jen, you have to recognize, you know, you're in the business of making money. If this is for money, if it's not for money, Jen, then you could take the 9K. It's totally up to you. But the reality of what's happening is two people are coming together with an opportunity. I think it's fair to ask for half. You know, and let's be honest, Jen. Let's be honest. What if you only get 160? If you only get 160, check it out. You only make 15 grand. You know, and he makes 15 grand. You know, this is a job or business. Oh, right. How can you make sure you still have a backup plan to get the 50K back if he backs out? Oh, that's all in your contract. That's all in your contract. You don't have to worry about that. That's all written up by contract. Does that make sense? So yeah, there's lots of ways. Yeah, you can register a lien against the property. How do we make him sell? Well, you can offer for him to sell. I mean, if he sells, you could say, look, if you sell it, he gets, but this is it. What does he want for the property? Does he want, because that's going to change everything, right? If he wants, what if he changed his mind and put a tenant at the end? What do you mean, Jen? What do you mean changed his mind? If he does not sell, he can rent to own, you can share the profits. We need to protect access to our capital. Well, sure. This is why we have agreements, right? We have contracts. So you could, if this is a rehab, Jen, it's you can obviously put a registered lien on the property, and there is no mortgage on it. You'd be first position. If you did that, the worst case scenario is there'd be a registered lien on it, and he would have to pay you that money when you sell. But you could put in the agreement that if he doesn't pay, there's penalties, there's additional costs. I mean, you could go to that extent if you want to. Because you're putting up the $50,000 on the property, and he's not paying you for it. So if it was a regular rehab, the rehabber might say, "Well, give me 50%." And as I do the work, or when I'm done the work or close to done the work, you can give it to me in pieces, or you pay the rest at the end. I mean, that's what a rehabber does, right? Depending on their business model. If you're worried that you could register yourself on the property, which would protect you in that if he didn't pay you the $50,000, there'd be a first position lien on it. He'd have to pay you when he's sold, and there'd be additional penalties that you could put in the agreement. There's 100 ways you could do this. So the contract and the agreement is what's going to protect you. That's going to be something that as you put this agreement together, you want a lawyer to review. But I mean, again, that's something that you want him to understand as the owner, and you to understand, right? What are the risks involved? What if things go wrong? I find that people have the best intentions getting into a deal, and I think that because they don't consider that the deal might go bad, they don't adjust or make provisions for exiting the deal, right? If things go bad, what happens, right? I think that's something that you want to recognize. If we're looking to ask him to sell the property and you just take possession of it, it goes back to a basic rehab where, how much do we need to, what's the maximum sale price that we could buy this property for? When you're talking about buying the property, Jen, then you're going to have to deal with carrying costs, right? The carrying costs of the property. So, it would appear that they ask that we could pay as much as, because if it actually got 180,000, say got 180,000, the RVU is 180,000, repairs plus purchase, if we stayed at the 80, there'd be profit of 50,000, okay? Now you put in 50,000 in repairs. So if this is just you, right? You've just bought the property and put up the repairs, you'd make 50,000 on this property. You with me, Jen? So we bought the property, we repaired it, profit looks like 50,000. The thing is, Jen, that if we do 90 days on this property, for 90 days you have, so for 3 months you have taxes, insurance, and carrying costs, right? Expenses that are associated with holding the property, because this property is not going to cash flow for 90 days until you sell it. So you'd have to account for that. So maybe the carrying cost, we put carrying cost, and obviously getting a mortgage and all that stuff. I mean, which is fine, but you just have to account for it. So carrying cost, say, is $2,000 a month, so $6,000. Say, cost me $6,000. Okay. Again, I'm just throwing in numbers here. So $6,000 is the carrying cost. We want to make that a minus. So over 3 months equals sum these two. Now you're making this amount. Okay? So you're making $44,000 on this property. Now, why are we going through this exercise this way? Well, what if he wants 90,000? If he wants 90,000 for this property, right, and you're still putting up 50,000, now you're making 34, which is not only, but you're still making 34. That's if we get 180. What if we get 170? 170,000. And you're making 24,000. See what's happening? So if you want to purchase the property, that's fine. That's fine, but you have to account for those. You have to look at that, right? Utilities, insurance, taxes, etc. are carrying costs if no mortgage. That's right. Utilities, yep. Insurance, taxes, yep. And any other costs that I don't know could be imagined through it. But yeah, you'd have to. The big thing is to account for it. Plus selling costs. That's right, Nick. That's right. So we have selling costs, right? So if we pre-sell it, we don't have a realtor. But if we use a realtor to sell the property, typically we're going to get closer to our retail price of 180. But that would have to be accounted for too. So we can add that, right? Carrying costs, and then we could go. Let's do this. Let's move this down here. Let's go sale cost, and let's do equals this times decimal 6%, and let's do 7% to include everything. Okay, so oops, that's 70%. There we go. So we go like this, and we go. There we go. So that's sale cost, and that's also going to be negative. Okay. So this would equal. It would be sum of these three equals sum these three. Okay. So we're 21,400. Okay. That's if we sell it. That's when we sell it at 180. Okay. So if we go back to the 80,000, the original, we could be okay. If we go to 85,000, 85,000, we'd be okay. But that's if we get the ARV of 180. We got to be able to sell it for 180. Okay. So just to be safe, let's say we put it on the market for 170 because we didn't want to carry it. Then I'd need to get the property for, looks like 75,000. Yeah, about 75,000. Does that make sense? The main thing when you're looking at any of your investments is just to be honest and account for all the expenses. Because we could make up the numbers and make it look like it's a great deal. But at the end of the day, the numbers are the numbers. They don't lie to us. So we want to make sure, if the carrying cost is 6,000, that we account for it. If the carrying cost is 4,000, sure, let's do that. But there's not in this particular property, him giving you 5% of sale price sounds like a whole lot of risk on your end. You're putting up 50,000, and let's be honest, Jen. So Jen, is rehab something you do? Is that like a business of yours? You do rehabs? Okay, so Jen, tell me something. When you rehab a property, what's your markup? What's your markup on the cost of a rehab? 3 in the last 12 months. Excellent. What's your markup on a rehab? Is it 30%? 20%, 25%? So if a rehab costs $100,000, do you mark up? That's your cost. Do you mark up 25%? What on average would you estimate that is? Do you know what I mean, Jen, when I say that? So you repair. Okay, depends on how much I do myself. I don't mark up. I look at the market value of the home. You mean rehabbing a property for your own investment? Is that what you mean? Yeah. Okay. So let's do this, folks. Is anybody rehab as a profession on the call tonight? Does anybody rehab as a profession? Anybody? No? Nobody? Okay. Well, let's just look at this. Let's just look at this. Let's say that the rehab on a property for a rehabber. So rehab, okay, it's going to cost the rehabber $50,000. Okay, markup. You know, that's the profit that they make equals this times, oops, markup. Let's say markup is 30%. Okay, just to give you an example. Okay, so equals this times this plus this. So they're going to tell the person that the rehab's going to cost $65,000. Everybody with me? So is everybody with me? Okay. So this is what I want to ask you, Jen. The reason I'm showing you this is I want you to understand something. If you were doing a rehab professionally for this guy, if you're doing a rehab professionally for this guy, and you had no risk, you just a regular rehab, he paid you, you'd make $15,000. This guy's asking you to put up all the money and get 5% of the sale price, which we already calculated. If we get 180, is $9,000. You know what I mean? It just I don't see the upside. If you were just doing it with no risk and just doing the rehab, you'd make 15 grand. $9,000, to give you an idea, somewhere around 18%. That's what he's giving you. We already calculated actually 18%. He's giving you 18%. That's what he's saying to you. He's saying, Mark, do the rehab for me. Take the risk of putting up all the money. I'm not going to pay anything. And you get to mark up your rehab by 18%. To me, Jen, that doesn't sound like a good deal on your end. Great deal for him. Not so good on yours. Anybody have any comments or anything they want to add to this? Anybody? So is everybody following me? Is everybody following? Yeah, it's a great deal for him. And there's not, I mean, it's not, you know, it's not um, crazy for him to ask, but it is a little crazy, I think, for us to do, right? You know, so, you know, and what you can do, Jen, is you can say, you can ask him, you can say, look, why don't you get an estimate from a rehabber, so you understand where I'm coming from, you know, because if a rehabber did this property, what would he charge him? You know, if you know, would a rehabber charge him 65,000, 80,000, 20,000, 30? We don't know. Yeah, that happens sometimes. It does. And Jen, if you feel like the relationship is could be, you know, challenged by this experience, you might just decide to say to him, you know what, right now it's not something we can do. Maybe on the next project or another property, we can look at it. But right now, I mean, you could say 100 things. I don't want you to see the man, but I at the same time, I don't think it's a good idea to get involved in a deal where you're not making any money. Yeah, you could do that, Jen. You could get a quote for him. Yeah, get a quote for him. You know, say I ran the rehab. The rehab's gonna cost, you know, $60,000. You know, and I think that would definitely shed some light on, you know, the opportunity or what it is or what it isn't. You know, I think it's fair for you to be fair and transparent. You know. I think we're just trying to be fair here. Yeah, I think we're just trying to be fair. And sometimes people don't understand until you show them all the all the information. But this doesn't seem, when you start running the numbers, it doesn't seem like a good opportunity on your end. Besides, the boss says the cost of the rehab will only be 50K, but it could easily be more. Might be harder for you after you spend the money and you can't get it back. That's right. You know, I would, Jen, you know what I'd do, Jen? I'd get 3 rehabs, 3 estimates. Get 3 and take the middle one and start there. Just start there. Yeah, it's got to be win-win. It's got to be win-win for sure. Absolutely. Get 3 rehabs and start with the middle rehab and say, okay, well, this is, and you tell them this is the scenario, and we can work this out on the next call if you want, Jen. If you get that information, and next Tuesday we can do this so everyone can do it together, because I think it'd be a good exercise for everybody to see. And you say, you know, this is what it's going to cost, and this is what we can do. Keep you posted next week. Yeah. You know, we just want a fair deal. We just want a fair deal. You know, that's all we want. Anybody have any questions about this or comments? You got a few minutes left. Any questions? Let's see. Numbers for the deal. Where do you input land transfer tax, legal expenses using this spreadsheet? Well, this spreadsheet's really built for cash flow. There's a separate spreadsheet for rehabs. They give you a different one in the class, the rehab sheet. So rehabs would have that. Yeah, all the expenses. Yeah. You can put it in the expenses. Yeah, Charles, right? I mean, technically you could put it in the expenses. The big thing is you're just accounting for it. The sheet's really not built for rehabs. I was trying to figure out how to do it to make it easier off one sheet. I wanted to do that, you know, fix and flip, but I haven't done that yet. I'd like to integrate all the sheets, to tell you the truth, just to make it easier. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Anyways, any questions about this before I close it up? We good? No questions? No worries. No worries. My pleasure. My pleasure. Okay, so let's do a couple things here. So let's hide that a second. I want to. I think I gave you 95. So let's do this. Hide that one. If anybody needs this file, this is the most updated one, I believe. This is the file that we're looking at right now. Download it here. If anybody needs any of these files, this is your chance. Take the next few minutes to download these files. You can download them. That was great, Jen. I think it's great that we're looking at different deals, right? This is it. And I think if we, you know, you work together and you figure this stuff out, it starts to make sense. So I'll give a few minutes for everybody to download that. Any questions? We got about 3 minutes left. Anybody want to ask anything? I know some of you are downloading those files. Go ahead. It's okay. We got a couple minutes just before we wrap up. Okay, no worries. Okay, so what we'll do is next Tuesday, same time. I'm going to see if I can bring my mortgage broker and financial advisor on. Hopefully, he can be a guest with us, and we can talk more about financing. Other than that, obviously, you all know that you can reach out to me anytime you need to if you need any help with anything. And of course, if there's a deal that you want to evaluate, I love to do them on Tuesdays with everybody because I think we can all learn from it. Top right corner of the download window, can you download all the files as a zip file? Oh, you see you can? Is that what you said? Top right corner of the download window. You can download. Oh, well, let's look at that. That's pretty cool. Good. Good. My pleasure. My pleasure. My pleasure. I love doing this stuff. I love doing it together. I love it. It's awesome. I enjoy this a lot. So, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna wrap up the meeting. If you're good, type in yes or Y. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Okay. So, my pleasure, really, my pleasure. Okay, Jen, keep us updated, okay? Bring the deal back next week. We'll do a quick update on it. And if you need anything, you let me know, okay? Otherwise, folks, you have a great rest of the week. Try to do 5 properties this week, 1 a day, just to, quick evaluation on it.